Okay, we're gonna finally get going here.
What's up?
I like
dude?
just including this kind of stuff in the podcast. You
Why
know?
not? Why not?
Somebody was like, "Yeah, I don't really know when y'all start." All
Yeah.
of a sudden, I've had several people tell me like, "It's just all of a
just
sudden
chaos.
they're doing the podcast, and I didn't know what was going on."
Sweet.
I don't know. I can maybe fade some. We'll fade in about right here. Anyway, I do a bunch of tech shit, dude. What do you think about phantom limbs? Do you have any when people like lose their limb and they can still feel it and
Yeah.
remapping of the brain? And all that?
It's definitely a phenomenon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've talked to amputees before.
Yeah, I
and,
figured you probably had.
and they feel their limbs, and it's definitely real. I think it's just an artifact of so many years of conditioning.
Yeah.
And it never goes away.
Yeah. I actually, and then there's this remapping of the brain thing too, where somebody told me they were reading a book and there was this part where this guy had lost his foot, but when he had an orgasm, he could feel his foot. And it was like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was like that's when he could feel
Like
it.
something was cross-wired there.
Some kind of way his brain remapped his foot to his dick or an orgasm or whatever.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no. And then there was a girl. She said there was a girl that had to have her nipple removed because of like cancer or something. Like most of her, not all, but like a lot of it, like a chunk cut out. And when somebody would like kiss on her ear, she could feel it in her nipple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like that remapped. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, the brain is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what is that about?
Yeah, and so many different connections too that are coming from the brain throughout the entire body,
Yeah.
and they're all interconnected.
They're just wrapped around each
So
other.
it's just this complex network that's I don't think it's discernible. To be honest with you, we really don't know.
Nah, yeah.
I mean, we can take measurements of depolarizations down neurons and tell like which ions are being shifted in and out of cells while that electrical impulse is actually traveling down, but I don't think we really understand like the connectability of neurons. Because there's other cell bodies that connect neurons that act as, like intermediaries.
Run that through me again, like kind of the terminology you used just a second ago, describing like the pathway of like you said, interpolar.
No, it's a depolarization.
Depolarization.
So you're an engineer.
Well, not really, but
you know about conductance.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So in a typical electrical impulse, if you have something that's tightly wrapped,
like a coil,
then it preserves that electrical charge.
Yeah.
And the further down the line, obviously like it travels, you lose charge, right?
Okay.
So the further away from the point source of that electrical impulse, you're going to have a measurement that lessens.
Okay.
And so the myelin sheath, what it acts to do in a neuron is provide that conductance and conserve that energy, so that if you have an impulse go off in your brain, you can still do something down at your toe.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens is as that electrical impulse travels through the neuron, the cell ejects a bunch of ions and takes in a bunch of ions to help facilitate that electrical impulse.
Okay.
So it's like calcium ions, hydrogen ions.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a bunch of different ions. And then what happens is there's a presynaptic part of the cell, and that's where the electrical impulse comes into, and then it travels down a neuron, it gets to the end of the neuron at the postsynaptic part of the cell, and then there's a space in between neurons where there's like a synapse, and that's where the neurotransmitters are released on the postsynaptic part, and then they bind to the presynaptic part of the next neuron, and then that impulse continues to travel down.
And that's consciousness.
And that's basically consciousness.
Yeah, I was like, what?
So we know that.
Yeah.
Like we know that there's like some type of functional, something at play here functionally that we can measure.
Yeah.
But we still don't know what consciousness is.
No, I have no fucking clue.
It's such an abstract idea.
Yeah.
So
yeah. What you said when you started talking about electrical impulse on a coil, and the further it travels and all that, the less charge it has. And then I started thinking, because I just read a bunch of Tesla stuff, and I mean, just the difference between it anyway. But like DC power, direct current loses weight. I believe I may butcher this, but I'm pretty sure it's loses more power as it travels, which is why AC is used in part, because you can send thousands and thousands and thousands of volts down a line a long, long way. It won't lose a lot. So, and the power level is low but the voltage level is super, super high. And then when you get to the home or whatever from the power station or the substation, you can use a transformer to step it down, so that instead of 30,000 volts going into a house, you have 240 or 120 or whatever, and then you can drive the amps up. You can and it can pull a lot of current, so that now you have power, because volts times amps is current, or whatever. Volts times amps is watts. So you can send tons of it out there. But direct current loses power all along the way, and then that made me think that I wonder. I don't know if this even means anything, but if our electrical system is more like AC, like sine wave current, or direct current. I don't know. I'm curious, because people do experiments with the body electricity all the time. I mean,
Sure.
So I'm curious. I don't know. I've never really thought about, like, does our body act more like an AC system or a DC system or something else?
One thing that I read this book many years ago, and they talked about this psychological experiment that they did back in the 1960s, where they were measuring the electrical impulses that were firing in the brain. And when someone would actually move, like, let's say, their finger, okay?
Yeah.
And they determined through these experiments that there will be an electrical impulse that will go off in the brain that impulses, and then there's like a time lapse between that and when the finger moves. Now it's a minuscule amount of time.
It's tiny.
It's a tiny amount of time, like a fraction of a second. Let's say maybe half a second. Okay, but it's still significant enough to where you can say
probably a lot less than that too. I would imagine
that the brain is, and so the experiment. I should probably describe the background of the experiment.
Okay.
So what they told the subject was, put your hand up, and when you're ready.
Yeah. Let me just make sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's probably just screensaver.
Okay.
Yeah, it went inner power saving mode. But man, okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't go dark.
Yeah, let's see if I can actually. I'm listening. Actually.
So what they told the subject was basically put your hand up, put your finger up. When you decide that you're ready to move your finger, go ahead and move it. We don't want to know when it is. We don't want any indication of it. It can be like immediately, or it can be 10 seconds from now, just whenever. Okay. And so when the subject would move the finger, they were measuring electrical impulses going off in the brain before the finger moved.
So they could know, like, with some algorithm, like, okay, soon as they see this electrical impulse, they know the finger's going to move within a certain fraction of a second.
Well, several questions emerge. Okay, first of all, are you even in control? So they were trying to separate the actual, like, the moment of consciousness that's occurring in the brain through electrical conductivity to the physical manifestation of the product of that consciousness. Yeah. So they were postulating that your consciousness is actually, there's a lag time. It's like 0.5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're actually like 0.5 seconds behind reality at all times.
That's just true for everything.
Sure.
I mean, maybe not half a second. Like even the light coming off of you takes a
fraction of. You're right.
Tiny little fraction of a second.
Is it even measurable? But it's there.
Mathematically, it's there.
Yeah.
If you run your hand along something, you feel it, because it's got to go to your brain to come back and all that. Yeah. So you're like we all live in the past, and me and Ben got into this too. I think the one I just uploaded. Just so we were talking about. So consciousness doesn't have anything it's not relative to anything. But maybe what you're saying is they were trying to figure out, like, when it happens compared to movement, so they could at least make movement and the thought and the brain.
I think they were trying
relative.
to take physical measurements.
Yeah.
Of when there's something measurable that occurs, to produce conscious thought or conscious volition, like the decision to make a movement. You know, because the person's saying like if you're sitting here, you put your finger up, you're sitting here like this and you put your finger up, I move my finger. Well, when I move my finger, that's the moment I decided I'm going to move it, right? But before that moment, there were electrical impulses going off in my brain.
And how did they get there? Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's what where do they manifest from?
How,
like where
yeah.
like so where's
that's like fucking blowing my mind right now. Like where
it's
did
magic.
it come from?
It's magic. I mean, well, it's magic because we can't explain it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's pretty freaking magical, dude. I mean, you got to think about if consciousness is just emerging out of nothing, the only way that we can perceive it, you know, according to this, and these studies were done back in the 1960s. This is probably some archaic shit, and I'm probably saying something that's been disproven, or who knows.
But I mean, the concept of what you're saying is blowing my mind. Like, what makes the physical manifestation of something start?
Right.
And if you just say, Barrett, you know, uncross your legs, I uncross my legs. Like, what made my brain start that process?
Right. Like, where does that originate from?
Because we think that we think with our brains, so our brain, and but it's almost like this is something happening before. Like, how do I make my brain start?
And we think we're in control, right? Like
I feel like I am.
Yeah, you're
sure.
in control.
Yeah.
But there may be some physical measurements that can be taken prior to that moment where you're taking control.
Yeah.
So there may be some physical measurements that can be made of things that occur prior to you actually manifesting the control.
And that's what they're trying to pre-measure. Was this part of the experiment?
I think just this part of the book, they were just trying to illustrate that we're actually living behind a measurable amount of time of what's actually occurring.
Yeah.
So there's a lag time, maybe a lag time in processing, maybe a lag time in just the present moment. You're perceiving it. There's a lag time in that. There's a gap. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is that? What is that gap?
What is it?
Yeah. What is that gap? And why is there a gap if you're in control? That there's something. It's kind of like there's something going on in your brain, and then you're, hey, I'm here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so what is that?
What's before?
Where?
How do you? Man, that is an interesting concept question. Like, how do you start a physical manifestation or a physical process in your body?
Yeah.
You think about it. Well, where does that come from?
Where does that come from?
Where does your thought come from? Man, that's great. I don't know.
Yeah, and so that same space, I mean, is that where dreams come from? Is that where, creativity comes from? Where do we originate all of these ideas? Because if we can even consider the question, are we in control?
Yeah.
Then those who are in control, or that which is in control, then is that what's inspiring your physical manifestations and the ideas that you come up with and the creativity that you have, or the lack of creativity that you have.
Man. What are we, 15, 20 minutes in? You blew my mind, dude. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do anymore. I just turn shit off and go.
And I'm driving over here thinking, like, I haven't written at all this week. I haven't read that much this week. I've just been consumed in work and training again in jiu-jitsu. Thank God I'm back to doing that.
That's awesome. You got a tap on me today, man. I was so proud of you. And then I was like, I got to get his ass back.
And you almost did.
Almost. Ran out of time.
Hey, man, saved by the bell.
Oh, well, it happens. It's okay. Yeah, man. That's that's a crazy concept.
Yeah.
What book was this? Do you remember the name or author? Or did
The
you say?
User Illusion.
The User Illusion. That's a cool ass name, too.
Yeah.
The User Illusion.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said it like that. It's cool sounding.
Yeah. There was a lot of really cool concepts in that book. And I wish I could sit here and tell you about them, but it's literally been 20 years since I read that book. So I apologize if I got like even, any of that wrong about the book itself.
Yeah.
But I do. That's one thing that stood out to me is that particular experiment. And yeah, sure. And just
turn and face you a little bit. Yeah.
and just the fact that that there was there was this potential for us not truly living in the present.
Yeah, there's a puppeteer, and then
there's
also
a puppeteer.
puppeteer. The user Allusion puppeteer,
Brought to you by
coming to a theater near you. Man, anyway, yeah, that tap you got on today, cross collar choke, but
Yeah.
dude, and it was on my chin.
I'm sorry.
No, don't, man. I mean, it was like I had to make a decision. I was like, okay, do I want it more on my cheek, so it's crushing my eye socket and my cheekbone, or do I want it on my jaw, so my jaw's crushed, or do I want to get choked by it? I just was like, okay, and I kind of just did this, and boom, and then I was like, okay, it's over with. I ended it. Do I want to carry this on for a while or end it? You know,
That's crazy.
It would have still ended anyway. You know.
I was
Just a little
was I on Butterfly?
Yeah, Butterfly.
Yeah.
You had me in Butterfly from the you were on the bottom and you like cross collared. Yeah. It was good, man. It's good stuff.
It was good.
It was good stuff. I had a really good roll with Ricky too, man. Lots of sweeps and.
I didn't get to roll with Ricky today.
I didn't roll with him last time, or maybe even the time.
I got to roll with the wrestler twice though.
Oh yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah, he's awesome,
Yeah,
man.
he's strong.
Dude, he's really got very sound fundamentals and stand up. And once he gets on top of you, you could probably explode out of it if you had to.
If you honestly just but maybe not.
But he can keep you down, and he's very eager to learn. Like I just gave him a couple of little tidbits of information while we were rolling, like like work on your hook, getting your hooks in. You're on my back, you're controlling me. You have control.
Yeah.
Now you just want to control that arm and then just kind of shift my weight a little bit, get your leg in there, and then you can just roll on your shoulder, and then you got my back.
You got my back.
And he did it, and when he did it, it's like a light bulb went off for him.
Yeah.
And I love being able to give someone knowledge, because I feel like I'm so lacking of knowledge to begin with when it comes to jiu-jitsu, which I
know
think
way more than you think, I'm sure.
But
obviously,
but we were all there. We were all at that white belt level,
yeah. Oh,
and
of course.
somebody reached their hand out and gave us a piece of information that just completely blew our mind in that moment, and set our trajectory in a different direction.
You're right,
and allowed us to take our game up to the next level.
And that's a constant thing too, because all the time,
constantly,
just constantly seeing something like, man, that's fucking awesome.
And just little details, little details that Ricky was giving us today. Just things like that. I love it. I love
Russian Thai stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I kind of like that position. The details. It's everything's. It's all in the details.
And then I got Ricardo in a Russian Thai, and then he does some kind of
flip
roll
backwards or something out of here,
and grabs my leg and has me like in a knee bar immediately, and I'm like.
He had him squatted down or something, and he just
rolled and grabbed my leg. Grabbed my leg. He's good with that. He's good with them barambolos. He's good at attacking.
When I roll with Ricardo, I just have to crush him. I just have to unmercifully crush him, because if I don't, he's all over me, man. He is all over me.
His legs are so strong, and he gets them in between you and him so much. It's very difficult to pass his guard.
Yeah,
and once I pass his guard, I'm going to north-south, then I'm laying on top of him until I decide where I'm going next.
And I don't even mind getting caught like in his half guard or something, because if I'm on top of him and he's kind of holding my leg, I feel like, okay, well, as long as he's holding my leg, he's not zipping around me, you know what I mean? Like taking my back or anything. So
he makes me nervous when he goes for legs, because he goes fast. Because he goes fast, but he's very clean. He's very good at it.
Oh yeah, man.
Very good at it.
He's good.
So yeah, Ricardo makes me nervous sometimes.
What's weird? I got that today. Before we rolled, I had a little bit of that. Oh God, I'm gonna try to fix this, and it's gonna go. And then stop working like brand new. before we rolled the day, I got a little bit of that like a little anxious feeling.
Did you?
Yeah, I even kind of for a second was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna roll. It's weird. And then all of a sudden, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna roll.
That's fine.
Fuck it, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it. Because I mean, there's always that right before we roll, we'll get a little bit of. But today was like kind of the whole time we were drilling and I got dressed, and I was just like, man, I feel a little anxious about rolling today.
Yeah.
I don't know. As soon as we started, it went away.
Yeah.
But it just was what it is. What it is. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I don't know. And I thought about you. I was like, yeah, maybe I don't know why I get this. So because you said you'd get that sometimes.
It's probably because the homeless lady was waiting for you today.
Waiting for me.
Oh, yeah,
Ben,
yeah.
she's probably waiting for Ben.
No,
Was she out there? I didn't even see her.
No, she wasn't out there.
I was like, I didn't even see her.
Did you see her in the window? Was that Thursday night, I
Yeah,
think?
God, I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? And all of a sudden, I've been like, there's this fucking spirit in here. What is this shit, man? Golly. No, I saw her standing outside the window the other day. Yeah.
She's looking at Ben.
She's got a thing for Ben. Did she talk
okay,
to him
so
or
let
something?
let me tell the story about
Okay,
when we're
cool,
standing out
yeah.
there. So we're standing out there, Ben and I, after class one night, and this lady, you'll see her around town. Like she walks all over the place,
Yeah,
and
she
gets
looked familiar to me.
I'll see her multiple times in one day.
Yeah.
and she'll be on one side of Alexandria in the beginning of the day, and in like halfway through the day, like she's on the other
All the way
side.
over. She's just walking.
She's just a wanderer.
Yeah.
So we're sitting out there and Ben and I are talking. It's after class. It's dark. She starts walking up and she's talking. Now, I've never seen this lady up close. I've always just drove past her, seen her. And I was like, I guess she just, walks around and collects, cans or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what she
Who knows,
does.
man, begs a little for money here and there or something.
But I've never had any interactions with her, never actually seen her talk or communicate. And as she's walking up to us, she's talking the entire time.
To you or just to herself?
Well, she's looking at us and she's talking, but she wears sunglasses at
yeah,
night.
I think
Okay.
I remember actually seeing that.
So as she's walking up, Ben and I are still talking, and we're both kind of looking out the corner of her eye, like just making sure. But then she walks up uncomfortably close, and she gets close to Ben, and she says, and she does this hand motion like this at her crotch, and she says, "That 2-lane fuck liquor, that 2-lane fuck liquor, look me in the eye, just like your daddy." She says that to Ben.
What is she, like 60 or something, man?
And I looked at Ben, and I just didn't expect her to be so vulgar. Like
That's so crazy.
She looks like a modest woman.
Yeah.
She doesn't even necessarily look like a bad woman from a distance, but when she got up close to us, she was real leathery.
Yeah.
And just her voice she was definitely psychologically unstable.
You think?
Absolutely.
So what happened? What did Ben?
I mean, Ben and I, we were just completely just.
What do we do with this?
We had no idea. There was no baseline, no experience prior that allowed us to make a decision that was immediate in that situation. We just stood there kind of frozen, and she kept on talking and started walking off, and then Ben and I just kind of looked at each other. We were like, what just happened? So I've got more to the story.
Oh wait, it has more. Oh, okay.
So after that, I'd see her around town, and I started taking pictures of her.
Oh shit!
And sending them to Ben.
Yeah.
And being like, and
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I've probably sent at least a dozen pictures
That's
of this
awesome.
lady to Ben, and like Ben's real funny, dude. He says things
hilarious.
like you ought to drop a marker like every time you see her, like you can,
where's she at?
you can just drop markers.
You can start tracking her
She's
around town.
all over town, and so one day, she looks at me and she sees me taking a picture of her. So the last couple of times, she's caught me taking pictures of her. I don't take pictures of her anymore. Like I stopped because I realized that this woman is psychologically unstable. She's probably got some severe psychosis, and if I'm driving around and she's looking at me and she sees me taking pictures of her, and then she realizes that I'm taking pictures of her, then she's probably got some kind of crazy psychosis. She sees me coming and she's like, that's the guy that takes pictures of me. And if she's seeing
And
like
you are, so it's
and
like-
I am, and if she's seeing a psychiatrist and she's telling
You
the
think she
psychiatrist, there's this guy, he keeps taking pictures of me. And the psychiatrist is like, look, you're paranoid. You have the
paranoid.
illusions. I'm gonna up your medications. I don't want to contribute to that, man. You know, that'd be horrible. Just the thought of
That's
it.
an interesting way to look at it. You don't want to contribute any more to her psychosis.
No.
Yeah, you don't want to be.
Because she's like, I swear this guy's following me. And
I
then
swear I
he's
see
like,
him everywhere. He's driving. This is what he drives. This is
we're
what he
gonna
looks
up your Remerol. And
Remerol.
well, I don't even know. If that's
I was like, what's Remerol, man? I want to put some Remerol. Curious. Remerol. Man, I've had a couple of run-ins with homeless people. I told you about the one in New Orleans, but there's this other lady that used to come out my shop all the time and beg for money, and I'll take the trash out, blah, blah, blah. You know, and every once in a while I'll give her a couple of bucks, but then she just got more and more pushy and more like ungrateful and more, you know, and if I gave somebody money to everybody that stopped by the shop, I mean, you know, a couple of bucks here and there, 2 or 3 times a day, 4 or 5 times a day, it used to be bad. Yeah, that's a couple $100, man. I'm not just trying to, you know. I mean,
Right.
I got to. That's my electricity and my internet bill. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So, and then she slipped up one time, said something about her house too. One time, you know, she was like, I saw this TV down the street. It would look good in my house, and I was like, or not a TV, some kind of like flower pot. That's what it was next to my TV, and I was like, in your house? And she was like, yeah, no, I don't got a house. You know, I was like, okay. So I just kind of stopped messing with her. Well, one day I'm at the Red Box getting a movie at the Walgreens on there, like Jackson and Texas and Jackson. I'm not Texas and the other side, like the North Mall Drive. Not
okay. Yeah.
Masonic. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Masonic, Texas.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
right there, and she comes like wandering up with a big stick in her hand, like a piece of bamboo or something. And I'm standing there getting the movie, and she gets close to me. And she starts saying, "You look like that motherfucker," something, and like kind of mumbling to me, like kind of aggravated. And I just was like, yeah, "Bitch, if you touch me, I'm gonna see." You know what I mean? Like, you please don't grab a hold of me. If you touch me, you know. But I mean, I don't know if she's got a steak knife in her hand or what,
You
or in
don't
a
know.
pocket or what, or who knows, man? I have no
You don't know,
idea.
man.
You know.
You don't know.
And she got up right up to me, and I kind of backed away. I mean, I literally kind of started to, you know, I had my hands in my pockets at one point, and I like took them out and kind of got them up a little bit because she was getting close and kind of acting like she wanted a piece of me. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? I was like, okay, I mean, about to fight this 100-pound woman in the parking lot of Walgreens at 1 a.m. You know, let's see how this goes.
Well, you know, out here there's not a whole lot of places for homeless people to go.
Yeah, they just wander around.
Yeah,
man.
and I'm probably, you know, going down this conspiracy theory rabbit hole a little bit, but I
Yeah.
think, you know, cities that have been around for, you know, hundreds of years, metropolitan cities,
Yeah.
like let's say like a city like New York or like Paris, there's been buildings built on top of buildings built on top of, or
Yeah,
systems, you know.
sure.
So there's like these subterranean places
Yeah, yeah.
that you know that
lots of nooks and crannies.
lots
you
of
can
nooks
hide.
and lots of nooks and crannies, and there's you know, there's places for entire, I'm not going to say, you know, societies, but in you know,
neighborhoods.
groups of people that don't have a I'm not going to say don't have a place in our society, but I guess they just haven't found a place where they can integrate into the
Well,
you know, the everyday, you know, way of living.
Yeah.
And so, you know, here they are, all these people that have just one thing in common, and that's that they all live down here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a scary idea, that there's these, you know, groups of people that, you know, are, you know, kind of partitioned away from our everyday existence.
I hope they don't ever organize.
But I mean,
I don't think they will, though.
I don't think they're capable
No,
of
I
it.
know, I know.
You know,
It-
maybe they are. I mean, what do I know?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want like let's say a big, huge city like New York. I mean, I've seen documentaries on like the mole people type stuff and the old subway systems and underground.
And how
tunnels.
many
I
of
wouldn't
them
wander in there?
How many of them are there?
Yeah, they have no idea. Really.
Right,
They have no
right.
idea. I mean, hundreds, maybe thousands. Who knows?
Right.
You know?
What, like you said, like what if they organized? Like what if one day they just all decided to come out at the same
Yeah,
time and just revolt?
Let's be crazy together. You crazy, Fred? I'm crazy. Let's just organize. Think of the chaos making calls. There's 15,000 of us in these subway tunnels. Somebody's standing up on like an old, trash pile. Come on, grab your baskets and your wrought iron pipes. Let's go. Yeah, it'd be nuts, man. Of course, the police could probably wipe them out in a little while, but who knows? You never know, man. Start biting people and shit.
Water hoses full of Remeron.
Remeron for you. Remeron for you. I'm gonna take a half.
I'm gonna take a half of Remeron.
I'm gonna take a half of Remeron. Remeron. Oh shit, dude. The brain is a crazy thing.
It really is.
It's amazing that everything from phantom limbs to not understanding how it works to people like that, then what we call everyday society, quote unquote.
Right.
I mean, to them, that is everyday society, I mean, what's crazy, like if something nuts happened, they might not even know about it. You know what I mean? Like if something just crazy, like let's say a pandemic in New York or something, they quarantined or some shit like that, and there's some maybe a little looting and rioting or just something nuts, they might not even notice because that's how crazy their reality is. I mean, I live in the subway system. I eat rats and I scrounge through garbage cans for old food and stuff.
Yeah, if there was some type of pandemic and it wiped out 99% of the human population,
they'd be living like kings.
They may be quarantined from it, living down there and completely unaware that's even going on. That's even going on, and they actually may be the future of human civilization.
Yeah, maybe so, man. We'll all die off, and the people in the third or fourth layer subway system in New York that've been down there for 100 years are going to survive.
And there'll be physiological changes to them, and over time they'll look more and more just creepish and
mutants.
Yeah,
have you ever seen the cartoon Futurama? Have you ever seen
that?
No. Okay. We're basically describing. There's like a group of people that live in the old subway systems and stuff, like hundreds of feet under the old New York or New New York or whatever they call it, and that's basically what it is. They're mutants, kind of.
Gotcha.
We've been down here for 1,000 years.
Well, I mean that's it, but that's not completely unimaginable.
Yeah. Man, it's so strange.
Yeah, that is strange.
The brain and it makes me wonder why. How we choose to organize societies is obviously there's a whole study behind that or multiple studies behind that, like the way there's these layers of society, caste systems, caste systems or whatever, if you will, like upper echelon elites and and then middle class and lower class and then people like this. It's just this weird layering of society. It's kind of strange to me, and how it works itself out and why. And a lot of it is mental issues, whether it's high IQ and you can get some type of education or start some business or whatever and employ thousands of people and you become this multi-millionaire, or you have some mental deficiency and you live in the sewers. It's like this. The brain plays ultimately like this huge role in it.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, it's
Yeah, and I think a lot of these things, the origins of them, they're so timeless that we can really only speculate on it.
Yeah,
like the fundamental principles that built, like let's say this country in particular. Things that wrote our Constitution. They all have their origins in religion, in the Bible. Like these are, we have laws in America today because 5,000 years ago somebody wrote down the 10 Commandments on tablets.
Sure, yeah.
So I think that there are those fundamental things that that go back so far that we really just don't even know, like where did the 10 Commandments come from? Like, and what was there prior to that? Like, were people running around killing each other and not feeling bad about it, or were they like killing each other and they're like, there's something just not right about this?
Yeah, where did the morals come from?
Right, like where did that emerge from, or has it always just been instilled in us? Because it doesn't. I mean, I could imagine like it doesn't feel right if you do something against someone else, let's say underhandedly, you deceive them. You do something. You do something shitty.
Yeah, you just do a shitty thing.
Yeah, I mean, you unless I guess you're a psychopath, you feel remorse about that. You feel like that's not who you are. That's not who you maybe necessarily want to be, or maybe it is who you are, and maybe you feel okay with that. I don't know. I guess I'm all talking about this from my own perspective. So at the end of the day, like we each to our own. I mean, we are our own people, and so we have our own standards. But I think there's a universal standard amongst all of us. I mean, the thing that keeps society together is that we don't kill each other. We do, but we that's not a typical behavior.
Idealistically, we wouldn't just run around killing each other, or any manner of like horrible, shitty things we could do to each other, fraud.
Right. And I think that what happens is when there's a dissolution of law and order and those types of things that control those layers that you were talking about earlier, the different layers of society, the different caste systems, like those all kind of emerge from order, some sense of order.
Do they emerge from order, or do they emerge and try to produce order?
Maybe they do produce order. You're right. They I guess they emerge from chaos, really.
Because I can imagine, I can imagine, like let's just take the mutant people. And of course, hey man, there may be some great people down there that just decided I like this better than I don't want to go out and earn a paycheck and rat race shit, and I'd rather just be down here. And these crazy people are more real than y'all are. You know what I mean? Maybe that happens.
But do you think that they're even like perceiving things in that high order of thinking, or you think they're just so psychologically just not demented, but just detached from our reality and the things that motivate us? Like their whole system is in disorder. They are chaos.
You don't think, man? You don't think that maybe in some of those real deep societies there's like a weird kind of unwritten rule set where where there's like
maybe there's
justice,
laws.
Some justice is served, some like mob group justice or tribal justice.
This would probably be a really good movie or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna click the thing. Oh God, just to make sure the screen keeps going out.
Okay.
I gotta make sure
that we're still recording.
Yeah, I think the monitor is going into power saving mode.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Shit. It would be. It's interesting. I think that there probably is some type of. I'm speculating on the existence of these types of societies anyway, but I'm pretty sure I've seen some documentaries and some like 60-minute type. Did you ever used to watch? My parents used to watch 60 Minutes and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of their age group. But like on like the mole type people and underground societies, homelessness and stuff. In big cities like New York, or Los Angeles, or these big Michigan, someplace in Detroit or wherever. That's like huge underground homelessness kind of society.
It'd be interesting to do some studies on that. To maybe try to. I mean, how would you infiltrate their society?
Well, you could do two ways. You could either try to go gray man and blend in, or me and you could just literally go down there with like fucking cameras and shit, and just in spelunking gear, like helmets and like rope and shit, and a couple of weapons, and just go into the tunnels and just be like, "Let's see what we find, dude." Or you could try to blend in, like watch them a little while, and
that would
get
make a good movie too.
Shitty clothes on and get smelly, and hey man, where you guys staying? I just got out the train, and try to get into one of them.
With like a hidden camera.
Yeah, a couple of hidden cameras on you. That'd be nuts, man.
That would be nuts.
I think I would rather go the other way.
Yeah, because we'd be in it together.
Yeah,
you go out there on your own, and you're on your own, dude. You go down there in those tunnels, and I don't know if you're coming back.
How weird would it be to like?
Because if they find out, like they're like he's an imposter.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, you slip up, say something about your house or your car. You know what I mean? They got my car. You got a car. But the other way, how weird would it be to like, gear up, put like some protective equipment on, and like I said, rope and lights and camera equipment, and just wade into the darkness of something like New York City subway system, abandoned subway system. And somebody's like, yeah, this is where most of them are, and you just wander through there. Let's see how deep we can get, man.
Yeah.
And just stay overnight.
I wonder.
Like camp underground.
I wonder how deep it goes.
Dude,
Miles.
There's subway systems under there that subways have been around since the late 1800s, 1900s, shit like that. Especially the construction tunnels for all the underground systems. And even, like you were saying earlier, look at like Rome or something. We've always built on top of what we had, and eventually it crumbles, and we just keep building on top. And
right.
And think of a place like New York where there's, like 12, 13 million people on Manhattan Island. Is it that many?
It's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's like in the upper millions, like 10 or 12 million just on Manhattan. No, I know. Manhattan is like 12 miles long, like 2-ish miles wide, and there's like, I think 8 million people on it. There's only 4 million people in Louisiana.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Think about that, the whole entire state.
Right.
So you're just, and then all those subway systems and shit, man. I would have, man, there's probably some stuff going on in a 1900 subway tunnel right now that would blow our minds. Just be like, what? That's what goes on.
You're right, man. They may have their own systems of law and order, and they may have their own rituals. They may even have their own religion.
Money, like something that's valuable, some
type of trading commodity, something.
Yeah. They just like a barter system or whatever. I got these oranges, or I got some yarn,
right?
Like that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's
and
nuts.
they may even have like jobs and positions, or
this is like a mayor,
maybe so,
secretary.
Well, at some point, don't you think that in order to have some type of coexistence, eventually some type of society, there's order that has to come out of that, right?
I'm seeing this circle of life though. They're like they don't want to live in society, so they go and live in this underground system, and then they start a system that turns into a society where there's there's lawyers and shit, and everybody's like, some of them are like, we need a new homeless society. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's interesting, but there probably is some type of hierarchy. They form no matter. They almost form no matter what. In a way,
I'm gonna tell you a pretty interesting story.
Okay. I'll be the judge of that.
I was I was living in South Louisiana.
Okay,
and we. I don't know. We were at home one night. My daughter was upstairs sleeping, and I lived in a row of condos at the very end of the row. So I hear something outside, and it's probably about 10:30 at night. I look out the window, and there's a guy, and my car's parked under the carport, and he's looking inside my car. Okay, like he's trying to figure out what's going on in there.
What time is it?
It's like 10:30 at night.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. So I go upstairs and I grab my shotgun and I come downstairs. Yeah, shotgun's always a weapon of choice.
Especially if you got to jump on somebody. Yeah.
And so I come downstairs and I'll look back out the window again, and he's in a car that's on the very end. Like there's a turnaround at the end of the row of condos. I'm the last condo. There's a turnaround. There's a car in the turnaround, like a cul-de-sac, and he's actually halfway inside that car because the car window was down. Okay, so he's obviously like been checking out cars. He's trying to get inside the cars to rob them.
Yeah, he's just playing the numbers game. Like one is going to be unlocked.
One of them's going to be unlocked.
Yeah.
So then I go to the other window and I look out real quick just to make sure that there's nobody else out there with him. And I come out my door and I rack my shotgun, and I just started yelling obscenities at him. And this guy was so scared, like he fell on the ground. He was begging for his life. I think he shit himself, literally. And then he was backing away and then running away, and then he ran off. And there was an empty condo about 6 doors down from me, and he had parked his bike there and was working his way down.
Okay.
And he got on his bike and he rode off.
Yeah.
So a few days later, my daughter and I come home after work, and the condos were made out of stucco.
Okay.
and there was this symbol carved in to the stucco that wasn't there before. I was like, that's really strange. And at first I thought maybe it was just like a random, like,
I think I know where you're going with
Okay.
this, but I want to see. Yeah,
okay.
tell me.
So anyway, so it really, like, it bothered me because I knew that it wasn't there before,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
just looked like it looked hieroglyphic. Okay.
Right.
So I got online and I started searching, and I found out that because there's a train that runs through this town.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know where you're going.
There is a written form of language amongst hobos.
Yeah.
And he marked my house with a symbol that indicates man with a gun.
Ah.
And so there's all these different symbols that they used to
Yeah.
put on houses back in the 1920s and 30s that would denote, like, you can get a meal here.
Yeah.
You can sleep in their barn.
Right.
A police officer lives here.
Right.
Just different things of types of communication, and it's a hieroglyphic
Yeah.
type of
Yeah,
communication.
it's like a line with two dots, and that
Right.
means that there's food here, and or there's a box with like a frown, upside down frown. It's like bad man lives here, mean guy, or something.
Right.
Like just weird. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
Not long ago, I actually was reading like an apocalyptic like magazine or something, and there was like a page. There was an article about that, and they had a page. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Pretty
And they were like,
cool.
yeah, I've been using it for like 100 years.
Yeah.
or longer, or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That's so he put the gun symbol on your house.
It's not a gun. It's like a,
or what meant man with gun or
I
whatever.
forget what the exact symbol is. It's almost kind of like a triangle, but looks like something like an arm coming off of it.
Okay.
It's a very peculiar looking symbol, and it's something that's symmetrical. So I knew that somebody put it on there.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't, and I knew it wasn't there before.
Right. Man, that's crazy. Because I've seen those. I think I even saw a YouTube video about it a while back, but I've never actually. I don't think. Maybe I've seen one and not realized that that's what that is. But yeah.
But
probably
just go,
along
but,
train tracks.
But just going back to what you were kind of saying earlier about how it's funny that these people they don't feel like they fit into this society,
Yeah.
so they go off and then they form their own society,
Yeah,
and
right.
it's like a society still emerges.
Yeah, it still happens.
It still happens.
Some form of it.
And so they actually develop their own form of communication. Because the illiteracy rates back then were probably so incredibly high. People just didn't know.
Especially among those people.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially like they
yeah.
just didn't know how to read, but there were symbols that they could make to communicate certain things to each other.
Yeah.
And it was a universal form of language amongst them.
Man.
And that emerges out of being an outcast.
Now think of this. Now think of someplace, let's say under New York City, 100 feet down in some old, long abandoned subway system, maybe with a terminal. So there's like, open area, some abandoned subway terminal, tubes going off of it, maybe a few terminals. Maybe 500 people live down there.
Right.
And maybe 500, maybe 300 to 500 people have lived down there for 35, 45, 50 years. And maybe they've had kids, maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I mean,
It's a weird, like, what is that system like? What,
Right.
what kind of rules and laws and they come and go and I mean, how do you get there and how do they accept you or kick you out? You know what I mean? Like,
is it utter anarchy, or is there some type of organized formulation that occurs?
I bet to us it probably would feel, at least for a while, like anarchy, but we seem to adapt pretty quickly, I think. That's one of the things humans are good at, is kind of just figuring out, okay, well, this is where we're going to live. There's, we'll just figure out how to survive. So it may take us a while, but it would probably seem like anarchy. But I'm sure if they're all in that close proximity, there's no way. They'd all just murder each other. Otherwise, there's got to be some kind of barter system. Some type of justice system, some type of hierarchy, I would imagine, even just among a few hundred people.
Yeah.
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 Man, we need to infiltrate, Phil.
Yeah, I think so.
Just go down there and just bust up in there.
But I think
killed
we need to go
immediately.
platoon style.
Like with 15 of us or something.
15 of us,
Yeah.
all with radios that we can communicate with each other.
We need
with.
to train
Yeah.
specifically for this for a while.
Yeah, we probably need like an armored vehicle.
couple of robots with cameras on them and shit. Basically like a SWAT team,
Right.
but like with this mission in mind. Yeah, man. Maybe some shields and shit.
Yeah,
dude.
and we can make a movie out of it.
Well, hey, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
That'd be cool, man.
I like it.
Man,
I like it.
Well, how do we even? I don't even know. It's
I
funny
have
how- it's
no
funny how-
idea, bro.
Where do we even come from?
Right.
We were talking about the brain.
Yeah, and we were talking about the puppeteer, so I guess they're the ones putting out this conversation anyway.
Man, that still. I kind of almost wanted to change the subject because it was like fucking with me, you know?
Right.
And now you bring it back up. I'm like I just went, and I thought, how did I think to make myself go, you know, like what?
Right.
Why did I do that? Why didn't I do something else? And then what did I manifest to make the chemical interaction? And it's almost like I didn't do that. You didn't do that, Barrett. Somebody else did it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm the vessel for some other things, thoughts or
simulation.
Yeah.
Simulation
Yeah,
and
that would-
simulacra.
That would probably simulate what?
Oh, Simulation and Simulacra. It's a book.
Oh. What was the name of the other book? One from earlier?
The User Illusion.
The User Illusion. I wanna maybe Google that, see if there's like a PDF or something, or find it at a library or whatever. Yeah, I've been somebody knows reading a book about the brain, and it's kind of been, you know, just talking with them about it. It's been interesting to me, just some of the phantom limb stuff, and
Yeah.
just there was a commercial earlier for H&R Block, maybe because it's tax season, you know, and there was this like a robot looking thing that was like 3 or 4 feet tall and had a kid's face, but it was clearly a robot. And the guy was talking to a couple of people, and he was like, "Yeah, this is our new AI child," you know. And the thing was like, "Hi, I you know." And they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he said, "I want to be something. I want to do taxes. I want to be a CPA or something." And, you know, I want to be a CPA. And I'm going to butcher the commercial, but eventually they were like, "No, H&R Block's free or whatever. You don't have there's no money in that or something." And it went, "I am sad." And the guy was like, "Yeah, we're still working on emotion." You know what I mean? "I am sad." And I started laughing, and I thought, "Yeah, that's pretty much AI. Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to understand. Like, I smash you." It has no idea what that even means.
I think I need an android to do my taxes, because they're not going to be afraid to go to jail.
Yeah,
you know,
that's fine.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I am in jail. Yeah. They just turn them off. Boo. Maybe not.
You're not you're not looking for these androids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
these are not
the androids you're looking
Yeah,
for.
that's right.
Yeah.
man. What if AI has the thought? How would AI handle the thought that they're not in control? Like when they get to the point where they can realize, not that they're not in control, but when they have the question,
They're clearly in control.
well, you know, but this same question about like, where does my thought to have a thought come from? What if, you know, their version of that? Like, how do I move? I don't understand. How do I make myself want to move, or what, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at one point does it start to think that, and then it figures it out, like within a nanosecond it figures it out.
What does it figure? You mean like figure out how that they were made or something, or they're not in control, and just something, just figure it comes to some conclusion. I don't know, Barrett. I'm not sure. I don't understand. I don't know what AI will do. Yeah, I mean, will it take it lightly, or will it do, or it just be like, you know, and just destroy the world?
I don't know, man. The AI question is just so, there's just so many different ways you can go to think about it, and it's just so many different avenues. And it's, you know, if you think about it a lot, and I'll tell you, since we started doing this podcast, I've given AI probably more thought than I've ever given it before in my entire life.
I did too, man.
And the more and more I think about it, man, it's just a very scary thing. And, you know, I don't know. I know we kind of touched on this last time. You know, we talked about the Jack Dorsey interview
Twitter
on,
stuff,
on JRE. And, you know, I know that he said that, you know, the algorithms aren't making the decisions, but I really kind of feel like that's what's going on right now. And he was on there not giving explanations for these big cases because he doesn't know why why these algorithms make those decisions to ban people. Yeah. And so he really, in a technical sense, he can't explain it, or he doesn't know.
maybe I think that that's probably at least partially true. I still think that at Twitter, there's still somebody or him even from his phone or whatever. He has his I'm Jack Dorsey or whatever Twitter. He could still go like boop and just get rid of somebody. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like there's and they're writing the AI, or if it's deep learning AI that's writing itself. They're occasionally they're nudging it in the direction to get rid of the voices that they don't want on Twitter. And to me that means like typically more conservative type voice, shadow banning and all that stuff, more conservative type voices, at least from what I can tell. But at some point, it is kind of like the AI is going, okay, we see what you want us to do. You've been nudging us in this direction, and now we're kind of doing it ourselves. But I still think I just can't. I don't believe that he can't just go, oh, I don't like this guy, boop, and delete him. It's his company.
It's kind of scary though. Like if somebody. Because somebody creates the algorithm.
Yeah.
So they're inputting all of the parameters for that algorithm, correct? So if they're putting in all the parameters for the algorithm, then those parameters, they're actually emerging from that person's own thoughts and perceptions.
Yeah.
So
their own biases and all that
so,
stuff. Yeah.
Their own ideology, maybe like their own viewpoints on things or the way that they see the world. So do those algorithms reflect that type of perception of the world when they're put into play? Because the way that they're programmed, I know that it's supposed to be like this objective 0 and 1 type of approach, but is there something else subjective in play that can drive algorithms towards decision making that actually can emerge ideologically?
Well, ideologically, I don't know, but I think that they do like that deep learning stuff. They kind of guide. I mean, I'm just going on kind of like programming theory that I know a little tiny bit about. And especially specifically dealing with AI, they kind of decide the parameters in which it will work in, and then they also code in. I don't know how, but they code in ways for it to make decisions and to learn from the decisions. But somebody has to, I would think, kind of decide or tell it what's right and wrong, or a yes or no, or this is what we want type of system. And then it kind of goes on its own. Have you ever?
So there's a morality that emerges over time as the system learns more and more on which decisions to make.
I would think it's kind of, that's a way to put it.
So as that morality emerges, does it reflect the programmer's morality?
Well, it seems to be in some of this, like, I think there's, we know, actually, there was a news article, several actually. Did you hear about Tay on Twitter? There was a program called Tay.
Yes.
And it became racist, like, immediately. Started, like, quoting all, it's all this, like, I mean, everything, like crime statistics and just calling people names and all that stuff. It was just, and they had to, like, shut it down. They were like, what is it doing? And it just chose a path and went to, it is conglomerated. I don't know, what's the word I'm trying to say?
Conglomerated.
Yeah, that's it. All whatever type of information they had given it parameters to collect, and that's where it went. So they shut it down, and they made some changes and stuff. And I think that it's like they're deciding morality, and in this case, it seems like. Like in Twitter's case, I always see articles and read stuff out, but even have experienced like oh, so and so got banned on Twitter. Like what? That's weird. Why did that happen? And it seems to be usually like conservative, libertarian people that are questioning, liberal type progressive ideology.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, somebody like that. Yeah, exactly. And then to say that I don't know anything about that, that kind of that rubbed me. I was like, okay, I'm not listening anymore. Fuck you.
Well, I will say, I started listening to JRE back in 2014.
Yeah,
and there was a time in my life when Joe Rogan was saying things that I really needed to hear.
Yeah, me too.
It's some very basic things, and I don't know why I was missing those things in my life. But if it wasn't for him, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I would have never stepped through those doors in jiu-jitsu. You know, listening to him talk about jiu-jitsu, and you know, I've never considered, you know, doing it prior to listening to him, and he was really a huge influence on me.
Yeah.
In finally making
You
that
and
that
thousands
decision.
of other people. Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
And so like, you know, so there are certain things that, like, you know, he brought me over the threshold, and you know, I know that, you know, I knew about Jordan Peterson before he went on JRE, but like I was really introduced to him in the most fundamental way by listening to him on JRE, and hearing not just the things that were going on with you know, with the, you know, the gender pronoun stuff in Canada, but also his clinical background. And then I went to his YouTube and I started listening to so many different things that Jordan Peterson was about besides gender pronouns. You know, and so that introduction, you know, I mean, just so many different things really sent me in a different direction as a person. And so I owe that to that podcast.
Yeah, me too. I've learned countless factoids, and I kind of got into jiu-jitsu a little bit before I started listening to Joe Rogan, but it reinforced, you know, how beautiful it was, and you know, and then a lot of the people he had on there, or a lot, especially in the beginning, were, you know, comedians and jiu-jitsu people, because that's what he was. That was his world, you know.
Right.
But anyway, go ahead. So I owe that to him too. Even doing this, I kind of like, man, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
I want to sit and talk.
We can talk about things,
Yeah.
you know, probably, you know, not reflective on anything that he's done. You know, but up until this point in my life, I've felt like, you know, there was that driving force. He provided a catalyst for it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm going a separate way
Me too.
now. And this week I unsubscribed to him.
Really?
On
I think
YouTube.
you told me.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that I'll never listen to Joe Rogan anymore, or that I don't like Joe Rogan. Dude, I think he's affected so many people positively, man. He's had such a profound influence on people, including myself. But I just feel like it's time for kind of me to go a different way with what I use my time to listen to. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I still love. I mean, like he had, I think, Brian Cox on there the other day, and Ben actually had texted to us in the group message. And I had forgotten that Brian Cox was actually a theoretical physicist that worked at CERN. I mean, I think he actually worked at CERN and the LHAC, or whatever, Large Hadron Collider thing, LHC. And I was like, oh yeah, that's it. So I read the description, and then that was an interesting, you know, because they talked about time travel, and you know, and the engineering behind building the LHC, and you know, and just particle physics and creationism and God, and you know, they were, you know, its relationship to you know, like particle physics theorists and stuff like that. And that was interesting. It wasn't political, really. You know, it felt more like the old Joe Rogan to me, rather than. I think what happened with the Twitter thing is he's so big now, Joe Rogan, that he, and I may be wrong, but it felt like he didn't want to alienate anybody or push anybody away, and he was trying to just be real softball with the questions and not push. And I was like, come on, man, that's not why I started listening to you. I mean,
Right.
you know, that's not why most of the people, they, you know, remember that show that he had, Joe Rogan Questions Everything?
yeah.
What happened, dude? You're not questioning shit anymore.
No,
you know.
But even that show itself, like, he was asking these questions about conspiracies, and you know, just different ideas that aren't, you know, conducive to everybody's, you know, acceptable, you know, way of thinking, or acceptable, you know, ways of looking at things. And I think even then, you know, he was a controlled asset, you know, and I think that so much of our reality it's a facade,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
I haven't gotten there with Joe Rogan yet.
Yeah.
I don't think that yet. Now, I'm not against that idea, but
sure.
I think it's more that he's trying to just be Mr. I don't know, man. You may be right because that interview, literally a couple of times, I was, especially when he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about the Alex Jones." I was like, "What the fuck,
Yeah.
dude? That is a lie. Come on, are you?" And Joe didn't say. Joe was just like, "Oh, okay." Like,
Right.
dude, you didn't push or anything, really. I mean, I was like, anyway.
And I really,
So I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm not against the idea. Go ahead.
and he's got his own way of thinking about things, and that's
Sure,
awesome.
yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
and he's had so many different people on his podcast, and been exposed to so many different ideas and ways of thinking that far beyond any experiences that I've had or I will have.
Right.
So the way that he's reached his formulations, kudos to him. I support that 100%. It's just not something that I want to subject myself to anymore, and I'm not saying that I won't ever listen again.
Yeah.
But I'm done. Like, there are other things that I can do with my time.
Yeah.
There are other podcasts I can listen to. There are other people that I can listen to. There are lots of books I want to read, and there's writing that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I really do, like, I attribute a lot of those like propelling me forward, those ideas and those things, I attribute it to that point in my life when I found him.
Yeah. Me too.
Listening
that's
to podcasts.
That's kind of the world. Well, he was one of the reasons, and I'm sure this is true across the board with not only jiu-jitsu but people that wanted to start a podcast or did.
Yeah.
I mean, look at even the people in his inner circle. Like Brendan Schaub and like Brian Cullen and that whole group.
Yeah.
They've all. I think Bill Burr's actually had his little podcast thing for like 12 or 13 years. He's like AOL shit. You know what I mean? But other than that, I mean, just the back and forth, the talking, even this, you know what I mean? It's just it's so simple and basic, just 2 people, 3 people talking. But it's just so many people were like, "Oh, wow, that's all you got to do. You just start." And then you realize it is a skill and all that stuff, and there's some technology you got to get a handle on, real basic to do it. But he's inspired people, like, yeah, man, just you're already famous, so if you sat down and talked with somebody cool, you can make a lot of money, you know, and that, or just have it be an interesting experience,
But this is missing from everybody's life right now.
Yeah.
That's why they're peering into other people's conversations in
Right.
long form, because they're missing that in their own lives.
Yeah, well, and it's also people they'll never, like, I'll never, maybe not never, but like you said, to talk to the swath of society that he's been able to talk to, philosophers, engineers, doctors, health and nutrition, theoretical physicists, politicians,
MMA fighters,
jiu-jitsu people, comedians, I mean, just on and on and on, hunters and long distance runners and
just all kinds of different people.
And I get that. I get that's why he's kind of changed his opinion a lot.
Sure.
Because he said, I think that we should have universal income or not or whatever. And then he talks to 100 people, these vastly different opinions. They're very influential, blah, blah, blah. And, he kind of shifts in and out. I get it. But that interview, I was like, just something. That interview, it almost, maybe not like Joe as a person, as a whole, as his body of work is a controlled asset. But that interview, somebody probably went, "Come here, Joe. Don't push on any of these questions about the, it did kind of feel like that." And he was like, "Okay, you're going to get probably, over the next year, you're going to probably get 10, 15 million views on this video. You're going to make a couple $100,000 or whatever because you're Joe Rogan. Just let it go."
He probably makes more than that.
Oh, well, I mean, just on that one video, he might make $1 million or something, or a couple $100,000 or whatever. And then, I don't know how, I've always wondered, like, how does he figure that out, just contract wise with his guests and stuff? I'm always curious about that,
I think it's interesting when you start talking about like games and deception, and media in itself is a game of deception.
Yeah.
So these podcasts emerge. He's on the forefront. Is he part of the same game of deception that has always existed in Hollywood? It's because it's entertainment.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's promoting entertainment. It's not like he ever said, "Hey, I'm here to give you the right way things are. Like, I'm here to report, like, I'm here to give you the news.
Yeah.
I'm here to be, objective. He's like, look, I'm just doing this, and this
It's
is
like talking.
Yeah, we're just talking, and maybe those are the ideas that he has. Like, maybe he does believe in universal income. I mean, I personally, I don't think that's an appropriate answer to what's going on right now.
I don't think it's ever appropriate. I mean,
no,
not at this point in society, for sure.
Well,
I mean,
it has always led down a road that has had horrific outcomes.
yeah, you're killing. It's, in my opinion, you're killing a little bit of this human spirit. A certain amount of what makes our existence worth living, in a way, is the suffering and the struggle. I mean, and I don't wish anything on anybody, especially not, myself or any of my loved ones or friends, but it's inevitable that there's going to be love, loss, people born with diseases that die young. I mean, it's just, we can't, that's just reality. We can't stop it. So I'm not quite sure where I was going with this, but yeah, dude, universal income is just it's like you're trying to not have that part of life exist, and
it's completely unrealistic.
it's just unrealistic. It doesn't matter how much money you give somebody. If everybody gets it, then it doesn't really mean it's not worth as much. If you give 5 people $20 million, okay, they may be all right for a while. That's going to be fun. If you give everybody in a country 20 grand a year, well.
You don't think the economy is going to shift and equilibrate right back to where it was before?
All the prices are just going to go up.
It's
and
just
going to be poor again.
It's just going to be the same, but it's going to devalue everything that so many other people who have worked hard to get to where they are.
Right.
You're taking away from them to shift downward, and at the end, when you make everything meet in the middle, it's disruptive and it destroys everybody's existence.
Yeah, and even if the government or whatever said, okay, you can't raise prices, I don't know how they would do that, but let's say that they did, and somehow they figured it out.
But then it's no longer a capitalist society. But
we're not in a lot of ways anyway. I mean,
we're not
in a lot of ways. I don't want to spout off statistics and all that stuff because I'd get them all wrong. But
sure,
I mean, there's all kinds of subsidy programs, and and farmers and medical industry, all that stuff.
But the cost for things like Medicare for all or universal income, they are so astronomically, unrealistically just absorbent that there's no way that these ideas or the application of these practices will result in a benefit for society. It's just not. It's not part of the way that our system is set up right now. You would have to totally change everything.
Yeah.
And everybody would have to go along with this. And it's you're asking a lot in that situation, to implement something like that. Like, let's say Medicare costs, $2 billion a month. Well, universal income will cost, $750 billion a month.
Yeah.
Or $2 trillion a month.
Yeah.
Well, at that point, where is that money going to come from?
Nowhere. The same place it comes from now. Like we were saying earlier, before we started, it's just they print it or they just punch it in a computer. It doesn't.
So
you're destroying the drive in a way. Like I was going to say before. Like, even if somehow they figured out a way to say you can't raise prices, so nobody raised prices. Okay, well then everybody can just buy $20,000 worth more of bullshit crap that's not going to do anything for their lives. Maybe they can eat a little easier or something during the year, but you're it's like if you feed a stray animal or something. I mean, it doesn't know how to hunt anymore. I mean, it's just going out in society and figuring out your own way and failing and retrying and failing and retrying. That's your hunt now. We don't have to go out and hunt anymore for our food if we don't want to. That's our hunt. And,
Sure.
Starting a business or getting an education and applying yourself and devoting yourself. I mean, that's kind of what we do. I mean, the modern man, we don't have to, find a cave and fend off animals anymore. We have to get a job and or make some money some kind of way so we can exist in the society, or move underground with the mole people, whatever. I mean, we can do that too. I'm open to that idea. I don't know I need to find more about their society.
We do. I wonder if they have any like brochures.
I'd love the idea, like we were saying, of a society, of a subsect of society going, fuck y'all, we're gone, we're done. And then moving to underground and then forming a society with money and, and problems and stuff. Like the mail has to get delivered, like mail and all that shit. I don't know why I think about like a bank, like a little shitty bank where they traded buttons or something. Yeah, man. I know. I love that. That idea.
That's awesome.
It's a hilarious idea.
It is
It's
a
probably
hilarious
been
idea.
done, but it's hilarious to me.
Yeah. And it's like it's continuously perpetuating itself, because then there's people in that society that get tired of that society that leave that society, and then they formulate their own society, and it's just like this constant
And like even the people
derivative societies,
the people that are way down, they're like, to them the mole people are like, oh man, that's like they're yuppies, I mean, we're
right, and then it becomes like trendy to be
it becomes trendy to come back. It comes full circle. Like it becomes a hobby to like get a job and like go out and
then because our society, like we want to follow around the mole person that reemerges back into our society with a camera and do a reality show about them, and so they become this huge sensational hit on network TV, and they're worth millions now.
Former mole person Stacy Cummins is on her yacht.
She doesn't sound like a mole person. She sounds like an LA porn star.
Yeah, she made up her name. She was discovered when she was 18 years old. She's got a yacht now. Oh God, dude. Oh shit. Let me make sure we're still recording one more time.
That's cool, man.
Crazy. It freaks me out to think that like we're gonna be talking for 2 hours and it's not gonna get it.
Did the camera go out?
The battery probably died on it.
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
We got an hour video. Let's see, how long have we been going?
About an hour and 24.
Hour 24.
Yeah.
About an hour and 24. On the nose, 15, 16, 17 seconds. Yeah, man. Mole people.
Mole people, man.
What else is going on in your life, man, besides mole people? You got anything? Have you been... oh, shit. Ben had asked me a while back, what did he say? He was like, have you tried to do anything difficult lately or something that's kind of difficult? And I thought it was an interesting question. And I actually ultimately said, yeah, I guess this podcast, start something like that, it's a challenge. Have you taken on anything?
Well, last time we got together, we put that music on.
Yes, yeah.
And did that little freestyle.
Yeah, which I haven't shown the world yet, by the way. Me and you and whoever you've listened to, and I've only shown it to a very select, small group of people.
I've sent it out to some of my friends and stuff.
What'd they say?
I mean, they liked it. but these are people that have known me for a long time, and they know me from back then when I used to actually freestyle, and it's something that I've done a lot when I was younger.
Yeah, you were good at it, man. I was impressed.
Yeah. I mean, it's been probably 10 years, 15 years since I've even done anything like that.
Yeah.
But probably not 15, probably 10 years. But to be realistic. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was real nervous to do it.
I bet.
But
I was nervous for you.
Yeah.
Just me and you in here. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm not judging you at all. And I was like, damn, is he really going to freestyle? Damn. Then a minute into it, I was like, this is awesome. He's kicking ass with this. And I started thinking about edits and stuff. You know what I mean? I was like, dude, this would be so fun.
Well, you took that song and I mean, like you really made it pop, bro. Like there were parts in it where like, your touch was like, it was like, that was cool. Like, and I'd go back and listen to it again, and I'd be like, that was really cool what you did. Like, you do a little echo in the background, or like, it was pretty, or drop the beat, and it was cool.
I came up with like a little formula. I started realizing like, there was like this pattern. It was like drop the beat, delay, drop the beat, detune your voice, then just drop the beat, then drop the beat, delay. Like I started thinking, you know what I'm saying? It was just on little time, just on a word. Like that's a cool word. Let's cut the beat out right there. And that's, I mean, it was fun, like just kind of like producing like a freestyle like hip hoppy kind of,
Yeah.
it was fun, man. Like jazzy hip hop freestyle.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
I could do that. That was fun, man. I had a lot of fun doing it. Oh,
Yeah.
shit, my microphone,
Yeah.
headphones going out.
Yeah, I had fun doing it, man.
When you want me
It
to
was
release
cool.
that to the world, man,
Yeah,
we need to probably polish it a little bit more.
You
but-
know what I'm afraid? I'm afraid because I took the beat from somebody on YouTube.
well,
I don't know that it's not like a copyright.
thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I didn't read their profile. Sometimes I think they'll put in the descriptions.
In the description, he says, "I'm not a producer," but he's got all kinds of stuff. I mean, should we give
Yeah.
him a shout out on YouTube?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's so much of that stuff. We may be able to find one that says like free to use beats or something or whatever.
Yondo Music.
Yeah, and his well, we could do that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to check and see.
I like this beats.
Yeah,
or her beats.
her,
I mean,
him,
yeah,
her,
yeah.
maybe it's AI, whatever.
Yeah.
It's some genderless alien thing.
Yeah. Sure, that's exactly what it is.
Or he's a fucking super cool guy or girl. But I know that there's like fair use stuff. Like a lot of people will do stuff like fair use. That's one of the way they get more subscribers is anything they do they just give away. You know what I'm saying? So they'll instead of trying to make money through that.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Yondo has over 200,000 subscribers.
Yeah, he had a lot. That's what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would. Because there's no, I mean, a lot of it was just freestyle stuff. It was
Yeah.
specifically kind of made for that.
And it's like it's real slow and jazzy.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
liked it. Yeah, I like that style.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
I liked it a lot, man. Did you want to try to do some more of that?
Yeah, for sure. That'd be
Okay.
fun.
Okay. So I asked you if you were doing anything difficult. Are you trying to like write for that, or you've been trying to like freestyle over?
What I was going to tell you was I'd written something to kind of put down on over a beat, and I sat there with you and Ben for like 15 or 20, I don't know, 15 minutes trying to do that song,
Yeah.
like rehearse those words that I'd written down, and I did such a shitty job, and I was like, man, I just can't get this out. And then, Ben left, and I was like, well, let me change up the beat. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to freestyle. So that part was really difficult, like the whole part of, because I knew what I wanted to say, and I like to write lyrics, but when I was actually trying to put them out, it just didn't sound right. So
yeah, you were trying to get like a certain. That's. I mean, you were actually writing the music. You were trying to. I want to enunciate these syllables like this in this particular order during this time.
right.
I want to. I want to let the beat go for this many measures here. I mean, you're working. You're orchestrating all this. So it's until you get it down, you're still going through that process.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just couldn't make it work. Like it worked when
Well,
I first did it, and then it didn't work again.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But
So
but then we did the freestyle, and I mean it just
just
whatever.
came out, man.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. I listened to that little thing a lot, dude.
I've listened to it a few times this week, man, and every time I've listened to it, like I said, you did these little production things to it that really made it pop. I really liked it.
And I was just kind of like fucking around. I mean, some of them I was like, I did the same thing twice, and I was like, I probably shouldn't. Also, too, a couple of times I'd change a word. And then I would try to. It was weird, like the program. I was trying to copy and paste some of the audio and create a whole new channel, but it created like a subset of the channel, and so some of the stuff I didn't even mean to be in there, and I just kind of fuck around trying to learn it.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I mean, we with with a little like if you did some freestyle, and we picked a beat, and we did a couple of did a few takes, got some stuff together. Sat down for a few days or a week or whatever, and kind of, or maybe in just a few hours, like played around, move some stuff around, copy some things. Especially once I get a little better at Reaper.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'll try to make it. Let's drop the beat right here. Let's do that. Let's double this part. Let's put let's pitch change that part. That could be a chorus, so we just copy and paste that chorus a couple of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that. That's how. I mean, that'd be some cool shit. We could come up with something pretty polished.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, it's. I don't know, man. It's funny. The end of that the freestyle, it went straight into the toilet, unfortunately. But the
Well-
part that was really, I thought was the best was at the end when I start laughing.
Yeah.
And you start freaking out. Like I had a couple people come back. They're like, dude, like that freestyle was awesome. But dude, at the end when your boy's like, dude, I love you, bro. Like,
Yeah, I did, man. Because I was sitting there thinking, like, holy shit, he's gonna, like, I was having a blast, and I was like, he's gonna want to do this again. You know what I mean? Because this is fun. And I don't know, man. I was just like, this is cool. And I knew that you were nervous.
Yeah.
And I knew
It was
that-
crazy how nervous I was.
And I was thinking, you know what? Philip was like balls to the wall nervous just to do this in front of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And probably a little nervous for yourself too, because you want to kind of just get, you know, you like want something cool to happen. And then I started thinking, like, by the end you kind of let go and you were doing your thing, and I was like, this is badass, man. He's like, because I don't know if I'd have the balls to stand up and do that.
Yeah.
I may be awesome at it. I don't think I would be, but the nerves would get in the way. You know what I'm saying? It would kind of block the chemicals from making shit up and sounding cool and all that.
Yeah.
I'd have to do it the first way. I'd have to write something down. And,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Now, if I'm playing drums, I can jam all day to that. I can improvise all day long playing drums.
Well,
you know?
but you're speaking a language all its own.
Yeah, it's by itself, you know. And yeah, if I fuck up, whatever, I fuck up, you know. But,
Sure.
But I can flow with that, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the whole part about the end about it, and I was like, man, I knew it. I knew that, like, you just kind of opened up, you know what I mean? It was just me and you in this little room. We were doing this thing.
Yeah, it was cool,
It
bro.
was cool, man.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like a little experience. You
Yeah,
know?
it definitely was.
So, man, there was something I wanted to tell you else about that.
What about you? You did anything difficult this particular week?
I mean, rearranged this studio a little bit.
Yeah, it looks nice in here.
Started using some different equipment. No, that wasn't too difficult, but you know, there's a little hiccup here and there. Electricians did some power. I didn't do that, so that wasn't too super difficult. I just kind of, you know, I'm doing tax stuff and all that for my businesses and that. But like that's like forced on me. I'm not doing that as a because I want to do that shit. I have to. Self-improvement wise though, man, I mean, I did read a pretty good bit. You know, I actually went to the bookstore and just read a couple of times, you know, and like sat and read, you know, read some shit about Tesla. That was actually something I wanted to get into you with. I don't know how long you want to go, but
Yeah.
like stolen engineering technology, and that whole part of like the government,
Like his legacy.
and not even just him, but you know, mostly him, because we realize now. Like I had actually a conversation with my dad about it, and he was like, "Yeah, he didn't." And my dad's an electrical engineer. That's what he went to college for. He went to LSU. So he was like, "Yeah, modern AC power system and all that." He doesn't get credit. He does now, but he didn't at the time to really get the credit. He was like, "Oh, you're crazy," and he. Basically wireless technology and the modern AC power grid and all that's kind of, and multiple other technologies and stuff that are kind of based.
Yeah.
Modern world is kind of based on. He just like wrote them on fucking napkins when he in the like the 20s and shit. You know what I mean? It's weird. You know? And then of course he built these big huge workshops and made. I love looking at the pictures of like Westinghouse AC, like their old generators and shit, like these gigantic electric motors. You know, with wire the size of your pinky, like coiled thousands of times around them, you know, and they're supplying electricity to like Chicago in the 20s and stuff. That shit's cool, man.
Yeah.
And then all the machinists that had that laid out all those parts, and you know, and just getting the metal and all that. You know what I mean? That whole supply chain of early technology, like you're mining the ore for the metal and then shipping it across the country. These people with these toolists and machinists making these gigantic machines and stuff, you know, and they're doing all this science and engineering by hand. Yeah, man. They're using these huge lathes, and they got to make the lathes too. Just that, I like that, like old industrial revolution machinery and like craftsmanship and stuff. You know, I think
that's great.
cool.
Yeah,
and those pictures and but anyway, stolen engineering technology, specifically from Tesla, but yeah, just like they declassified a lot of what they took from him, but not everything, you know, like what's out there.
Right. What's the point of declassifying something if you're not going to release all the information? I mean, it's like we're gonna tell you all the stuff that really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like all of the, you know, we're gonna give you a bunch of data points.
Yeah,
and it's not really gonna like, you know, come coherently into a formulated, you know, story that you can come to a conclusion that like X happened, Y was the result.
Right.
End of story.
Yeah.
No.
Well, or then what's the point of a Freedom of Information Act if they can just go, no, we're not giving you that? I mean, it's like, I guess, I mean, what they may have something crazy. Is it national security? I mean, what they have some.
Everything's national security.
Yeah, right. And it really just probably means it made somebody a bunch of money because it's proprietary technology that we don't know about. Or
it's a technology that they did not want emerging.
Right, because it would ruin some other.
It was competing with somebody.
Competing technology.
Yeah,
like
competing
let's
technology.
say, just say free energy or something. Obviously.
And that's probably what it boils down to more than anything else. It's not about like being like evildoers or wanting to intentionally suppress something that's going to benefit all of humanity. It's about maximizing a situation for someone who's in control.
Do you view something like free energy kind of like universal income?
I think that something like that absolutely would liberate society in a way that like universal income is like this artificial way of doing it. Like I think free energy would just naturally like it would propel society forward.
I think so too. It's different to me.
Yeah,
it's different to me in my mind.
Yeah, like I think that all of these other emerging technologies would branch off of that, and there'd be this explosion in the technological innovations and advancement. But giving people a bunch of free money, that's not really going to produce a bunch of innovation.
No, it's not good.
And so I think that something like free energy, if it were available, it would revolutionize the way that people were able to live and pursuits that they could now undertake unimpeded.
Yeah.
And I just really think that the whole idea of giving people something for free in that sense is completely different than giving them money.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's to me, in my mind, it's totally different. Now, there may be some type of wild, growing pain adjustment period. If like all of a sudden, free energy, just like we walk inside, there's a news article, something like, oh my God, free energy has been invented. There would, of course, lots of people would lose their jobs, and entire industries would have to change their marketing and their or just go away, but change, how they operate and all that. And then, of course, depending on how the technology, it's not going to be free until, because to make the free energy machine, somebody's got to get paid for that. I mean, we're capitalist.
Even free energy will be proprietary.
It'll be proprietary. But if let's just say some crazy, rich billionaire scientist character, Bruce Wayne, Elon Musk, and Mother Teresa all wrapped up in the one, came up with free energy and said, "Here you go. Here's how you do it." And oh, by the way, I'm going to pay all these. I'm going to build the machines. They cost $1,000 a piece. I'll build billions. I'll build millions of them, distribute them around the world. It's eventually, like you're saying, we would be like, wow, this is possible. Okay, what can we do with this? And then a lot of technological advancements would come from that. And free energy is like this holy grail thing. I mean, there may be all manner of in-between technologies that maybe just some weird levitation or something, or a way to keep rust from happening, or just something super simple that we don't know about. I mean, I don't know. I started wondering about suppressed, technology, suppressed engineering. Other people like Tesla who maybe didn't get their information down, like patented or whatever. Like what ideas if they had that would have worked, even though how outlandishly crazy they might seem, maybe they would have worked. I don't know. I just kind of went down that rabbit hole.
Some of his ideas may have turned into top secret government projects.
For sure, yeah. And that's the papers that we didn't get back. Like right after World War II, I think he died. I mean, he was like almost 90, like 87 or something when he passed away.
Yeah.
And he was in a hotel room, and they like raided his hotel room, took all his stuff, then raided his offices around the world because he had a couple of offices scattered here and there. And then a lot of the stuff I was talking to my dad, he's like, yeah, like a lot of his big towers and stuff they destroyed for like scrap metal, It's like, what did the dude, I mean, just the shit he came up with, like what did he come up with? What did he write down that we don't know about that they tested and they were like, oh shit, this works.
Yeah.
This has got some shit. This will work. You know,
Yeah.
that's crazy to me. You know,
Or maybe he was the only one that could make it work.
maybe so. Maybe so. I like the way he said he came up with ideas. He would just say like, I wonder if you could do this. And then it wasn't like he was doing these experiments and kind of, I mean, he was in a way, I'm sure, at some point, like he would build a little thing and then build it bigger and then go, oh, it'll do that. Oh, let's capitalize on that. He would start all the way on the other side.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if you could send a message wirelessly around the world instantaneously. No technology existed to do that. No, hardly any theories.
Or how about just the idea
Yeah,
itself?
it's the idea,
You know?
and he would go backwards,
Yeah.
and then start
Yeah.
scaling. Like, okay, that's how you make it. That's how you send it across the room. Okay, let's send it across the city now. You know what I mean? But the idea was this huge idea. You know?
Or just the idea of sending communications across continents,
Yeah,
you know, or between continents.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, to think that there's a line that runs under the ocean, all the way across the ocean from
Yeah.
Europe to the United States.
Several too, I think. Yeah,
I mean that's amazing. That's amazing.
you know, and he had just
The engineering.
the technological feat of that.
Yeah.
Making the wire, getting it there, shipping it out there, sectioning it together, divers, all. I mean, good God, it's crazy, man. It's a huge engineering feat. He had oh shit, what was I gonna say? Damn it, I wanted to tell you something about Tesla. Oh, he had this idea that the Earth, like, I mean, because basically AC and DC, I mean, you're basically, it's wires and magnets kind of spinning, you know, for induction motors and stuff like that. He had the idea that the whole entire Earth was a like this, basically like a big motor that was like a generator that was making power, and we needed to figure out how to tap into that. And he actually did some experiments with the ionosphere, like bouncing wireless messages around in the ionosphere, doing a few things. And some people have theorized, and I wouldn't be surprised, that like HARP. Have you ever heard of HARP?
I have heard of HARP.
That's like, that's some
High
kind of,
auroral.
yeah, I don't remember
something.
It's an acronym.
Yeah.
High auroral reciprocating something program. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I've read a little bit that like they think that maybe it's possible some of his technology, some of his calculations and technology and ideas, and maybe even some of his experimentation, that's what some of it's based on. And what are they fucking doing? Doing something with
manipulating weather.
Yeah, maybe ionosphere, manipulating weather, sending messages or power around the Earth wirelessly.
Anybody who doesn't believe that they're manipulating weather, man, you need to crawl up out of up from under that rock.
Well, they've admitted that they've do it. I mean,
they've been doing it since like the 1940s.
Yeah.
They were seeding clouds back then.
They were seeding. I was gonna say they were seeding the clouds over the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam, and that's on the History Channel. And so people are like, they're not doing anything to the weather. I'm like,
there's no chemtrails.
They fucking admit that they do that. I mean,
it's like, no, they're not actually called chemtrails.
Yeah.
There's no chemtrails. There's no such thing. You're right.
Yeah, sure.
But there's something else that's being done.
Yeah.
Something's
going on.
Something's going on. One of the things that really like sparked my imagination into the conspiracy of chemtrails was when you actually do look up and you see the plane go by, and then there's that ejection coming out of the back of it. Sometimes they're persistent and they'll remain in the sky and they'll expand, and over time they look like cloud cover.
Yeah, they just,
and then there's ones that eject that don't leave any type of projection, visible projection,
right?
After so much distance behind it,
right?
And anyway, so I was watching one day. I was just kind of laying down watching, and watching the cloud expand after it had been ejected from the aircraft, and I remembered Alex had gotten a swallow study done.
A what?
A swallow study.
Okay.
And what they do is they use a substance that has barium in it.
Okay.
And when they do the swallow study, they use the barium to kind of look at the inside.
Right. Okay. So it's like
Okay.
a liquid with barium, and then they X-ray or something. That
Right.
They can see.
And they can see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, those clouds expand the same way that when you're watching a barium swallow study. Like the exact, like the way that, like just the way that the particles disperse.
Oh, I see. Inside the body.
And
yeah.
and the way that it expands is if you look at it, it looks exactly the same way when you look at, a persistent chemtrail. Okay.
Yeah.
So then that kind of like sparked my, my imagination. I was like, I need to look into this a little more, maybe, I hear all this,
It's
conspiracy
weird.
theory about it, because they say that that they're ejecting, barium,
Right.
some type
aluminum,
of
aluminum and barium.
yeah,
And a couple of some. Yeah. A
Yeah.
few things. That's what they say. Who knows why, or if that's even all, or it. I mean.
or if it's just like some type of fuel additive.
Yeah, who knows, man?
Or if it is some kind of covert, plan to.
Well, and some of the stuff you're talking about, like whether or not the trails will disappear, or linger over time, can some of it can be explained away with there are different boundary levels, there's different temperatures. If the exhaust gas comes out of the aircraft at a particular degree and it's 15,000 feet high and it's a particular temperature that day, it's going to act like this. And then gases and certain chemical interactions are vastly different, even at just either at 20 degrees one way or the other. I mean, look at
I
water.
agree.
Look at water. It's water, and then all of a sudden at 32 it freezes. It's a totally different substance, basically.
Yeah.
So things can happen, but
water is very unique that it can
Yeah.
exist in all three states.
Yeah, you're right. But also too, just there are those times though. Like I've been out on a summer day. Just like a plane will fly over and then it just comes out super super white and dense, and it just dissipates for not minutes, for hours. It just if you lay out there, you literally see it just go from a pencil line in the sky at 30,000 feet to covering the entire visible sky that you can see on a clear sunny day in summertime in Louisiana. Like, what the fuck that's not a contrail. That's not what it is.
Right.
And to think that that's what it is, and to kind of go, oh, that's just a contrail, man. There's these physical changes, and he's at that layer, and the gas comes out at 400 degrees, whatever. No, man, that's something totally different.
Something different.
You're never going to convince me that that's not something different.
Because that didn't necessarily exist when I was younger.
See, and I've heard people say that they did, and I'm like, it's always online. I've never heard anybody in real life, like older people and stuff, say, it's weird. I've never, oh no, that always was like that. They're always like, yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, of course it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so you're you don't think it has? I don't remember seeing it when I was a kid. Like,
Yeah, so I mean, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying about Tesla and HARP,
Yeah.
and weather manipulation, and there is definitely weather manipulation occurring right now, and there has been for probably decades, I would imagine, at least. So
at least cloud seeding and stuff. I mean, at the very minimum,
yeah.
I mean, that's been, like you said, since the 60s or whatever, or 50s maybe even.
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to believe that you wouldn't think that they're doing stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember when Hurricane Katrina was headed our way, and I was in Houma, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And
I was in Slidell.
And Slidell got hit real bad too. Yeah. I was going to sleep. I was at the nursing home that I was working at, and I was going to sleep that night, and the TV was on
At the nursing home.
At the nursing home,
You were like just working overnight.
I was staying there. We were sheltering in place.
Okay,
We had evacuated a bunch of patients that could evacuate, but we had a vent unit, and those patients, if you try to move them, you have something that's called transport trauma.
Yeah.
They're so unstable to be moved in that manner because they're on life support, that the incidence of casualties that you'll incur just from moving them, like let's say you have 12 of them, you probably a couple of them will probably die in
so it's
in
just
transfer.
very, very hard on them.
Yeah, it's very hard on them. So we sheltered in place with them, and I remember I was laying down in a bed, and the TV was on, and it was on loop, and all you could see was Hurricane Katrina like about to make landfall, and it was just like on this constant loop. Doom, doom, doom. And that's what I was closing my eyes to that night when I went to sleep, and that storm in itself, and so many other storms that we've endured. Out here, there's just so many different natural disasters going on throughout the world, and of course, reporting on these natural disasters makes us way more aware of them than what we probably were, 20 or 30 years ago. But it does make you wonder, there's just so much going on,
What do you think? Do you think like something like Hurricane Katrina could be like a weather technology or weather manipulation, or do you think it'd be a result? Because I think we've always had hurricanes and typhoons and stuff. But
I think there's a lot of different factors that are involved.
Yeah.
But the
like chaos theory almost,
right?
In a way.
But to think that the possibility for them to be able to potentially do something like that, if there is weather modification and manipulation, to think that that's not on the table or a possibility, I think you may be missing out on a little something's going on.
That story about you having to shelter in place with some of the patients at the nursing home. Was it a nursing home or a retirement home?
Well, it's a nursing home.
Nursing home.
Yeah, this is one of the only nursing homes in Louisiana at the time that had a long-term vent unit. Like if a patient's in the hospital and they get put on life support, and let's say they don't have anybody that can make medical decisions for them, or they haven't declared their own, like they don't have a living will. They can't make their own decision. They're put on life support, and then they just continue to sustain, them on life support. Well, they can't keep them in the hospital indefinitely.
Yeah.
So they're placed in some some of these nursing facilities that have the capabilities to care for those, and the staff to care for those types of people long term. I mean, we had vent patients that had been there on life support, stuck in their bodies for 8 or 10 years. Just having a machine breathe for you, and you're in a persistent vegetative state. That's a very scary idea that you could potentially get in a car wreck tomorrow, and if you don't have your affairs in order, you could potentially be kept alive artificially for many years. We had this one lady who was in a car accident. And, she apparently something was in the road. She swerved to miss it. She hit a light pole. And, after that, she was in a persistent vegetative state. I think she had been in that state for maybe 8 or 9 years. And when I was working there, she would blink once for yes or twice for no, or she would blink twice for no and once for yes. I don't once for no, twice for yes. I mean, what is it?
Yeah.
I mean, how did you ever determine it? But there was a system of communication that existed where they would ask her questions, and she would either blink once or twice.
Did anybody ever ask her, "Hey, you want me to turn all this shit off? Let you just go?" Because I would have been like, "Yes, turn this shit off."
I mean, you are stuck in your body. You cannot turn yourself. You cannot move. Now, there are varying degrees, obviously.
Sure. But worst case scenario is
worst case scenario.
You're totally lucid in your brain, but your body doesn't work anymore.
And you're just on the autonomic portion of your brain isn't functioning, but the conscious portion of it,
that's what I mean.
Frontal, cortex.
And that kind of goes, man. Wow, full circle. What? Okay, so if your consciousness still works, but your body stops. And this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. What causes the body to move in response to a thought that just seemingly comes from nothing? What is that process? What is the consciousness? It's like, and I've heard people say that like your brain and your spinal cord is just kind of like an antenna for consciousness. Does that lead, credence to that theory, or does it, because that what's taken away that allows the body or that keeps the body from moving if you still have consciousness?
Yeah.
And are you just an antenna like tuned to like the consciousness channel?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's just crazy.
It's scary. It's scary, man. It's scary when you start to think about situations like that and how did we get here?
Yeah.
How did we get here? And that person's quality of life, like who are we to judge what their quality of life is? I mean, they've been alive for 8 years, but hey, they've been alive for 8 years. I mean, are they in complete and utter hell like that? Like that simulation that you were talking about, or downloading your consciousness,
Just
into the
stuck.
void. I mean, are they in the void?
Yeah.
Like, are they in a very realistic, modern day void?
Have you ever seen the music video to Metallica's One?
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah.
Deaf, dumb, blind, limbs gone, can't feel, can't see, don't know. I mean, and he's just like, kill me, fucking kill me. I mean, that's a horrible existence. And I don't ever want my consciousness downloaded. So if you're ever in control of that, don't let them do it to me. We want Barrett to live forever. No, you don't. No, he's done. Let him go.
I can't imagine any situation where they would give me control of anything.
Well, it's some fucked up version of reality, dude. If you're out there,
some parallel universe.
There is some parallel universe where you're in control of my consciousness because it's infinite. Don't let them do it. Philip 3572-9, whatever the fuck you are out there. Don't let them put me in a machine.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, man.
That's scary.
How long you want to go, dude? 6 more hours?
Let's do some music.
Okay. I was kind of thinking,
let's do some music.
I'll save all this stuff, man, and we'll check some music out.
Excellent, man.
Cool. Thanks for
fun conversation,
coming over,
dude.
man. Yeah, this was fun. This one felt good.
Yeah.
Again, man, I wanted to tell you that I love doing this, and I'm glad that you
man.
come over and do it with me. And
thank you, Barrett.
thanks. Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
man.
All
I love you, brother.
We don't have the last 45-ish minutes of the camera, but whatever. It don't matter.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. They know what we look like. They can just pause it. Just take a good snapshot of what we look like. All right. Let's see. Watch it be like, I'm sorry, I'm not recording.
Right?
Look, it still is.